My name is Mark Farrell. I'm a 28-year-old mechanical engineer working for T-Bolts, Inc. I had just returned from a 5-day business trip up north and was sitting in a booth at one of my favorite establishments. I wanted to grab a quick bite before the 5 o'clock crowd showed up. Even though I was getting married tomorrow, I still had a lot of work to do at the office to finalize my current contract. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed Sandra, my fiance's best friend, Evelyn, walking to the next cubicle. I don't really like Sandra. I don't hate her, but I don't love her either. I tried my best not to draw attention to myself, and I succeeded. I hurried to finish my meal when I heard Sandra talking to someone I couldn't see. "Hi, sweetie, how was your— Holy shit, what happened to you? You look like you've been crying," Sandra said. This little drama piqued my interest. I decided to linger and listen to what she was talking about. I didn't catch a response, hearing only some mumbling, but I could hear part of Sandra's conversation just fine. "Oh my God, you're right. All right, girl, talk to me. Open your heart and you know I'll listen to you," Sandra invited. I was completely surprised by what I heard next. "I miss him so much it hurts," said a familiar voice. It was Evelyn. It didn't surprise me too much that she missed me. After all, I had been gone for 5 days and was returning less than 24 hours before our wedding. She was very unhappy when my boss told me I had to go traveling right before the wedding. Not that there was much left to do, as the wedding was planned in advance. We even had a rehearsal before I left, and it was a little cold. Not only was Evelyn upset that I was leaving her alone for a whole week before the wedding, but even her bridesmaids, her sisters and Sandra, were treating me down. I begged my boss to turn down the trip, but he said I had to go. Our 6-month project was only half completed. It was already 3 weeks behind schedule. I had to get him back on track right away, or we would make a big loss. He and I knew exactly what was wrong, but I still had to go and rectify the situation. "Tell me more about him. I want to know everything," Sandra asked. I was a little surprised and uncomfortable at the thought of Evelyn sharing information about me with her good friend. I know Sandra has been her confidant for years, but I felt uneasy. I wouldn't be discussing her with my good buddies, would I? "From the moment I first saw him, my life changed," Evelyn began. "She's right, and the same could be said about my life. As soon as I met her, I knew we were made for each other. Every time he walked into the room where I was, I felt like there was no one else but us. Nothing else mattered but his love and concern for me," Evelyn continues. This was reassuring to me. I often wondered if my love was too much for Evelyn. At times, I felt that it was too one-sided and that I was just scaring her away. To be honest, sometimes I found it hard to breathe as I marveled at her beauty. However, all those worries subsided when I proposed to her and she accepted. We were never wild. Often a simple walk on the beach hand in hand was enough to share our feelings with each other without saying a word. And when we did speak, simple words were always filled with meaning. We didn't need more than a few sentences to fully understand each other. One look and we shared as many feelings as other couples share in a year, she rightly observed. Evelyn was always the quiet one. At first, I tried too hard to fill the silence with my words. Over time, I realized that I enjoyed simply holding hands with her and sharing a few magical moments, the silent companionship of two soulmates. Our relationship is not based on constant declarations of undying love, but rather on the quiet understanding that our destiny is to be together, forever. And the sex was fantastic. I'd had good sex before him, but with him, with the depth of our love, it was a communion of two souls. At the mere thought of those magical moments, my body just yearns to make love again. Because that's what it was. We didn't have sex. We made love, Evelyn says passionately. Making love has always been easy with Evelyn. Her slender, light body demands tenderness. This is true for me, too. Before Evelyn, I had good sex. But when I am in a loving embrace with her, I want to spend the rest of my life caressing her. I need to gently kiss her body from head to toe. I've always dreamed of spending hours feeling the softness of her skin, rediscovering every soft curve of her body. "What about the engagement? Tell me about the day he asked you to marry him," Sandra asked. I hoped so, but I didn't care. We were together, loving each other, caring for each other. The marriage was just a formality, a piece of paper confirming what we both knew. We would be together for the rest of our lives. But he asked me. I didn't expect it, and I was speechless. I didn't know what to say. As soon as he asked, I was overwhelmed with emotion. It took me a while to regain my voice, Evelyn said simply. I was on the verge of a nervous breakdown that day, and the way it happened almost killed me. I had always had insecurities about Evelyn. I knew I wanted her to be my wife, but I wasn't sure how she felt about marriage. Her shyness and reticence made it hard for her to broach the subject. She was always evasive when I broached the subject. The night I proposed to her, we first went to our favorite restaurant and then went back to her house. I figured that if my proposal was rejected, I could just say the right things, maintain a semblance of self-respect, and walk away. Back home, I could always drink myself into oblivion. As I knelt down, Evelyn looked up at me with a classic deer-in-the-headlights expression. It didn't bode well, but now I was determined. I asked her to marry me. She just stood there and said nothing, just looked at me. In those few seconds, I died many times. Tears were rolling down my cheeks, and I was ready to stand up. I wanted to tell her that she didn't have to answer right away, that she could take her time. I wanted to leave as quickly as possible. Curiously, tears were flowing from her eyes, too. At first, she told me that it was totally unexpected. What a twist, thought I. Then she said yes. Our tears of joy mingled. My hand reached for the box in my pocket. I'd managed to pick up my engagement ring on the way home from the airport. It was fabulous. I know it still hurts a lot, but tell me about the trip, Sandra asked. I didn't want him to go, but he didn't have a choice. I knew it was only for a few days, but I didn't want to be separated from him even for a few hours, Evelyn said, and then she started to cry. I remembered that she had been very emotional when I left last week, but I didn't realize she was taking it so hard. From now on, whether it's a deadline or not, I'm not going to let any urgent matters come between me and Evelyn, I said to myself. When he was gone, I was half dead. My world was empty, devoid of meaning until his return. All day and all night, I thought only of him, wanting to feel his touch, to hear his voice, to have him by my side and make me whole again. I didn't know his absence could hurt so much until he was gone, Evelyn said, tears welling up. I had a hard time getting her out of my mind when I was away, too. It was hard to focus when every moment of my day was filled with her image. No amount of work could be worth hurting my love for Evelyn. Every night I thought about how I should be by her side, not alone in a motel room. Evelyn was still crying, and Sandra was saying some soothing words. Finally, Evelyn spoke up. It was my fault. I shouldn't have talked him into coming back that night, she said. What? Thought I. No, it's okay, baby. It wasn't your fault, Sandra objected. Yes, it was my fault. There was a warning that a hurricane was coming at us, but I insisted he drive back that evening. If he'd stayed there and waited for the next day, he wouldn't have gotten behind the wheel in those conditions. I killed him, Evelyn said. What the hell? I flew in and the weather was really nice, and I sure as hell didn't die, I wanted to say. You're not responsible for Brad's death, Sandra said. Brad, thought I. He wanted to be with you as much as you wanted him to be there for you, Sandra added. Did you tell Mark? Sandra asked. No, I'm still in too much pain. I can't, replied Evelyn. I still can't believe you're marrying Mark. I told you that you're not over Brad yet. It's only been 2 years. Do you even love that guy? He's not half the man Brad was. I didn't know Brad that much. Wow! As soon as you met him, I hardly saw you. I only met him a few times, but I can tell you Mark is no Brad. How can you marry him if Brad is still the love of your life? Sandra asked. Mark is very sweet and caring. I know he loves me very much. I need that. I know I can learn to love him. I know he will be a wonderful father, a good husband, and a good lover. When I'm with him, I almost forget about Brad. He can bring balance back into my life, Evelyn said, and then cried again. Who are you kidding, Evelyn? I'm not saying you're wrong about Mark, but you should have waited a little longer, Sandra said. Evelyn spent the next few minutes in Sandra's arms crying. After a while, a waitress came to their table. She placed a small jewelry box and a note on the table. She looked at Evelyn. Someone left this for you. Evelyn took the note and read it. Oh, no, she said simply and started crying even harder than before. Sandra picked up the note and read it. Evelyn, I'm so sorry I can't be Brad. I'm just your ordinary living being with all its flaws. Take care of yourself, really. Mark? The box contained an engagement ring. As the saying goes, curiosity killed the cat. But in this case, it killed something else. It killed my dream of having a loving wife. I went back to work to fill out my reports. The next morning, the day of the wedding, I was already on an airplane headed north. The project had to be completed on time, even if I had to fire everyone and do it myself.